U.S. President Donald Trump's pick for ambassador to South Africa, the conservative activist and writer Leo Brent Bozell III, has arrived in the country, and he will seek to improve some of the fraught ties between the United States and South Africa. Now, he's expected to present his credentials to President Cyril Ramaphosa before officially taking up his post. But for more, let's speak now to SABC News Specialist correspondent Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, good morning. So we have been expecting Mr. Bozell to come to South Africa. Many in South Africa have questioned his background and called on the president not to accept his credentials. What do you make of his arrival and what has transpired so far?
The president will not reject his credentials. He will accept his credentials. We don't know when. As you know that the president will do that not only for the United States of America, but for other countries whose ambassadors' term of office has expired and they are ambassador designate, and therefore he will accept the credentials. But the message was sent when South Africa expelled the Israeli diplomat that South Africa will not tolerate any diplomat who would violate the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations that was adopted in 1961. And therefore, that was a message also to the incoming ambassador or the ambassador designate, as many people have raised concerns around his previous statements and utterances. America did the same by expelling Rasul, and therefore credentials will be accepted. We don't know when.
And Sophie, Bozell's arrival comes at a time when many have raised concerns over what U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had to say, and they've criticized his address at the Security Summit in Munich. Any reaction or statement from the African leaders as you yourself were at the AU Summit last weekend?
The president did respond to that when he was talking to the media at doorstep just before he left Addis. He indicated that Africa must be united, speak in one voice at this time where you have global challenges politically and as it relates to security. And he also specifically responded to the question on Marco Rubio, trying to project the previous posture of Europe of conquer and imperialism as the best policy Europe and America had, by saying that gone are those days. Let's take a listen at what the president said about this posture by the U.S. of conquer, dominance, and imperialism.
Well, Africa in the end needs to act as one. Africa needs to respond with one voice. The global architecture has changed. And some would even say the rules-based architecture of the world has, in a way, collapsed. And it therefore calls on regional bodies such as the AU to consolidate clear positions on how we as Africans make interventions in this changed world when it comes, for instance, to issues such as trade, to issues such as how our natural endowments, which is minerals and critical minerals and rare earths that are so needed by your more developed economies, should be dealt with. Because what we should be avoiding is a new form of colonialism where those economies will now begin to target the minerals that they have. It is now time for Africa to do business on its own terms and to make sure that the decisions that we engendered at the G20 on how we treat our endowments, particularly critical minerals, should be dealt with. It should no longer be a case where rock, soil, and dust is exported out of Africa without being beneficiated. Now, we have leverage, and as Africa, we must use that leverage. And without enforcing ourselves or imposing ourselves. We need to be saying we need to act as one, collectively, and deal with the wealth that we have to the advantage of Africans. Hitherto, it has not been totally to our advantage. Other countries outside the African locale have gained great advantage. Now, the geopolitical situation, having changed as it is, requires us to be smarter and wiser and use the leverage that we have without being arrogant, without seeking to impose ourselves. And this is the time when, as Africans, we must act together.
Well, that's where we'll leave it with Sophie Mokoena. And of course, that was President Cyril Ramaphosa in response to utterances by Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State in Munich last week.